I enter the weekend on a 30-18 roll with the complimentary plays, so let's kick it off with this Saturday college football card with a free selection on the nighttime slate in my favorite conference. And I say that with sarcasm dripping from both corners of the mouth, the Mid-American, as I take a look at that showdown between Northern Illinois and Western Michigan. Now, truth be told, guys, I loved Western Michigan last week at Central Michigan. Absolutely loved the Broncos, and they went to that game and opened up a double-digit lead and absolutely destroyed the Chippewas. Problem is, I didn't use Western Michigan last week. I ignored the Broncos. Call me superstitious, but I always listen to that little voice whispering in my ear that says, when I don't use a team that I had handicapped and I loved the week prior, I stay away from them the following week because bad things generally happen. So that's why, even though I like Western Michigan today as a 17 to 18 point favorite at home, I'm only relegating them to free pick status. Now, this has been an absolutely one-sided series over the year. And it's all been Northern Illinois in this series. Listen, the Huskies, first of all, let's talk about them. They got off to an 0-4 start. They just won their first game as a 3.5-point underdog in Muncie, Indiana, against those Cardinals of Ball State. David Letterman's alma mater, 31-24. They accumulated 653 total yards in that contest. Of course, they let Ball State also run up 427 on the stat sheet. They started their third quarterback of the season, Anthony Matty, who made a pretty decent debut, and I don't care what conference you hail from. He threw for 298 yards and ran for another 160. Now, the good news, if you happen to be a Husky fan, is they're averaging 472 yards, including 220 rushing. The bad news is they give up just about as many yards per game. Now, as I said, this has been a one-sided affair in terms of the series because Northern Illinois has absolutely dominated this series over the years. Now, the irony is that Western Michigan's head coach, P.J. Fleck, he played for Northern Illinois. He was a wide receiver for them from 1999 to 2003. He was an assistant coach with the Huskies from 2007 through 2009. And right now, he's got his Broncos off to a 5-0 start after that ass kicking they handed Central Michigan 49-10 on the road last week. They gained 424 yards in that game. They only allowed 277. Their defense had 8 sacks of Cooper Rush. Now, Cooper Rush is the Central Michigan quarterback, okay? They also forced him into a fumble, also came up with an interception. He had entered that game playing very well statistically on the season. He had completed 92 of 147 passes, thrown for like 1,300 and some yards coming into that game. But against the Western Michigan defense, he was only 17 for 29, 178 yards, 1 touchdown, and again, an interception and a fumble as well. He struggled. Now, this is a team that's 3-0 on the road, and 2 of those wins outside of the Central Michigan blowout, they beat Big Ten teams, Northwestern and Illinois. I don't care that they are cellar dwellers in the Big Ten. You went on the road and you beat teams from a better conference, a Power 5 conference that recruit better athletes than you did. And you took care of business. And they're 5-0 coming back at home in big-time revenge. And I'm going to take them here. They've scored 49 points in each of their past 2 games. Now, Northern Illinois has won 7 straight in this series. Granted, but this Western Michigan offense is well balanced. They average 460 yards a game. They average 247 yards on the ground. They average 5.1 yards per carry. Going against a Northern Illinois defense that gives up 485 yards a game, gives up 219 yards a game on the ground, allows opposing running backs to average 4.7 yards per carry. And if you look at the ATS trends, the Huskies have failed to cover 7 of their last 8 games going back to last season. And their quarterback, again, Anthony Matty, great debut, but he's going up against a much better defense here in Western Michigan than he faced in Muncie last week against Ball State. So it's a huge number at 17.5, but Western Michigan is definitely motivated. They've cracked the top 25, and I think they put a hurting and a whipping on Northern Illinois in this game, and the ultimate revenge. 7 times straight they've lost to them, and I say they take care of business. Next game I want to take a look at, I'll stay in the Mid-American Conference. How's that? Let's talk about those Chippewas of Central Michigan. One of the reasons I wasn't surprised that Central Michigan came up so flat against Western Michigan last week is because the week prior, the Chippewas, who had started the season 3-0, were actually a road favorite against Virginia. And the Cavaliers in Charlottesville jumped out to a 28-0 lead. Central Michigan came back and tied the game at 28-all in the third quarter, but then Virginia eventually came back and won that game 49-35. That game was a physical, mental, and emotional draining game for Central Michigan, one in which their defense was on the field nonstop. I didn't think they had anything left, even though they were coming back home to take on Western Michigan last week, and the way they played proved me right. They had nothing left in the tank. Because again, Virginia, not a great team, but you have recruited better athletes when you're an ACC school, and they definitely outplayed them early, outplayed them late, and sent them back home severely beaten. Well, I think this is a great spot to take Central Michigan to rebound. That was an embarrassing performance for them to lose 49-10 at home. And they are not a bad team. So you throw out what happened to them last week against Western Michigan. And instead, you take a look at them. This is a team that, even though the referees gift wrapped them a win that they didn't deserve, they did beat Oklahoma State as an 18-point pub, 30-27. Again, they didn't deserve that win. The referees should have been fired for giving them that win, but they gave Oklahoma State all they can handle, and they were in a position to win that game, and that was an Oklahoma State team you saw last week. Just knocked off Texas with ease, right? Ball State, I just talked about them. They were a 3.5-point favorite at home, taking on an 0-4 Northern Illinois team, giving their third starting quarterback of the season his first start on the road, and they lost 31-24, and their defense gave up 653 yards, including 355 on the ground. They allowed Northern Illinois to average 7.7 yards running per game in that. They're giving up 422 yards per game defensively so far. You know, Central Michigan has a pretty damn good offense. You didn't know it last week against Western Michigan, but again, the Broncos are a very good defensive team. Cooper Rush, again, the Central Michigan quarterback, he can get the job done. And they have a good ground game as well. And Central Michigan averages close to 450 total yards of offense. Central Michigan 13-3 against the spread of their last 16 straight up losses. They won last year 23-21 in Muncie on a field goal with about 5.5 minutes to go. And that was a week after a 2-point loss to Western Michigan in Kalamazoo. This year, it'll be even easier. I have no qualms with laying the 12.5 points in Central Michigan. Again, I think the embarrassment of that loss motivates them. The embarrassment of the loss to Western Michigan motivates them big time against a Ball State squad that I am not impressed with whatsoever. So that's it. I may not give you another free play in the Mid-American Conference for the rest of the year, and that would suit me just fine as long as I win these two. Let's go to one of your early games, guys. I am 2 for 2 with my plays, giving you free winners involving the Maryland Terrapins this year. I gave you Maryland last week, and they destroyed Purdue, ran for over 400 yards, crushed Purdue last week, and I'm going to go with Maryland and take care of business against Penn State. This Penn State team isn't any good. This is a Penn State defense that can't stop anybody. This is an injury-riddled, excuse me, I get so choked up talking about Maryland and Penn State. It just breaks my heart. Listen, the Lions are just devastated injury-wise, especially at the linebacker position, and that's one of the reasons that they can't stop the run. Penn State allowed Minnesota last week in that overtime win they recorded against the Golden Gophers to run for 228 yards. The week prior in Ann Arbor, they allowed Michigan to run for 326 yards. You got Maryland entering this game with the number 6 run attack in the nation. That's right, number 6 rushing attack in the nation. They're averaging 300 yards a game, 6.5 yards per carry. They're doing it with a running back by committee approach. This is a Maryland team that through 4 games has already scored 173 points. And listen, okay, they've only beaten Purdue and Central Florida and Florida International and Hampton, but 4-0 is 4-0. And DJ Durkin, their first-year head coach, and Walt Bell, their offensive coordinator, they have this Maryland offense purring. And Penn State is so beaten up defensively, and this isn't a vintage Penn State team. You know, you think of the Lions over the years, and you think about linebacker you think of a stout defensive team. This is not that Penn State team. This is not that Penn State era. This is a James Franklin era, which may be coming to an end soon unless he doesn't turn it around. And this is a Penn State team that has only lost twice in 39 meetings with Maryland. But, you know, this has been a close game the last 2 times that these two have met. Once Maryland has won, the other one they've lost by 2 points. And I like the Terrapins in this one. 50-7 at home in their Big Ten opener against Purdue last week. 130-24 in overtime at Central Florida in double overtime, a game in which their quarterback, Perry Hills, got hurt, but they still managed to win. They won 41-14 at Florida International. Meanwhile, the Lions were lucky to win that game 29-26 in overtime at home against Minnesota. The defense allowed 469 yards in that game. The week prior, they lost 49-10 at Michigan. They barely got by Temple at home, 34-27. They lost 42-39 at Pittsburgh. Again, last year, Maryland lost 31-30 as a 6-point underdog in a game that was played at the Baltimore Ravens facility, okay? 2 years ago, in State College, they pulled the upset 20-19. I think they can do the job again. Both teams are going to stack the line of scrimmage to try to stop the run. I think Maryland's going to be able to get the job done. I don't think the Lions are going to be able to stop them from running in this game, and I have Maryland to win this game. Your final complimentary selection today. Listen, guys, I know it's a big number, and I know Indiana has covered 5 straight in the series, but I would be willing to lay the 28 points with Ohio State today because I look at this Buckeyes team, and I think that you have to throw out the results of last year's game when Indiana gave Ohio State all it could handle because the Buckeyes are a much better team this year than they were last year. They're a much better team defensively, and they're a more settled team offensively. True, last year they had Zeke Elliott, but last year they were an unsettled team offensively because of the quarterback situation. And if we remember last year at quarterback, Cardell Jones started in the Indiana game, not J.T. Barrett. And all J.T. Barrett has done this season has been sensational. 68.6% completions, 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, only been sacked 2 times. Also has run for 205 yards. They're coming off a 58-0 blowout win. The Buckeyes are at Rutgers at home last Saturday. 669 total yards in offense. Only allowed 116. 35 first downs. Only allowed Rutgers 9. Now, it is true that Indiana is better than Rutgers. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. The game's in Columbus. I don't know. Are they going to be better in Columbus? But here's what I do know. Indiana is coming off a huge, huge win for the Hoosiers in overtime against Michigan State. And it's not that Michigan State is that good. Forget about Michigan State's win against Notre Dame. We've seen the Irish aren't that good. Remember that Michigan State lost at home the previous week 30-6 to Wisconsin, okay? So the Spartans aren't that good. But for Indiana to beat Michigan State, that's a monstrous win. But isn't this the ultimate letdown game for the Hoosiers? Coming off that big Spartans upset for them, a big win for that program. And here you got the Buckeyes just laying in wait with the number 1 defense in Division I ball, a defense giving up just 238 yards a game. Okay, true. They play at Wisconsin next week. Gee, do you think Ohio State's sitting there and Urban Meyer's going, my God, we're going to overlook Indiana because we got to worry about those Wisconsin Badgers next week? I don't think so. Okay? Listen, personally, I think Ohio State's the best team in the country. I think if Ohio State plays Alabama right now, they beat Alabama by 2 touchdowns and never look back. I think Ohio State, if they play Louisville right now, they play Clemson right now, they win the game by double digits. That's what I really believe. I think Ohio State, what they did to Oklahoma, they do to anybody in the country and they win by double digits. That's it. I don't think anybody else can beat Ohio State right now, because I think Ohio State can play up-tempo and beat you that way. You want to score points and match points with them, they'll play up-tempo and they'll put points on the board. You want to play a mean, dirty, down in the ground and trenches, low-scoring defensive battle, they'll do that with you too. I think they're that versatile a team. Again, I think Indiana's just in a tough spot here. This is an Indiana team that last year in Bloomington led the Buckeyes in the third quarter, had 402 total yards in that game before losing 34-27 as a 22-point dog. Their fifth straight cover in the series. But this Ohio State team, again, 57 points a game, 6.5 yards per carry rushing. They've won 21 in a row in the series. Again, the fact that Indiana has covered 5 straight in the series means nothing to me. And I would go ahead and lay the 28 points with Ohio State. Am I betting them at 28 points? No. But I like Ohio State. So I'm going to go with Ohio State. I'm going to go with Western Michigan. I'm going to take Central Michigan. And your other complimentary play, I'm going to go with Maryland as well to pull the upset of Penn State. And that'll do it for your Saturday complimentary plays. I wish you well, and I'll talk to you again on Sunday. And of course, remember, if you happen to be watching this show on the website, you can also catch the Countdown to Kickoff show, which is already available with Steve Budin. And guys, also remember, if you'd like, you can click through this video report and always subscribe to the videos over on YouTube. So the advantage there is that when I go live with one of these videos, you'll get a little notification from YouTube that'll let you know the video is live. That's the only thing that I use YouTube for, which allows you to know when the videos are live. I don't solicit you with anything. I don't send you messages. I don't have time to waste time after 7 years of doing these video reports to do anything else. But that's an option you also have as well. I wish you well, good gambling, make some money, and I'll talk to you again on Sunday morning with my regular Sunday NFL video report.